We have the Mike Tomlin press conference leading up to our Week 2 game versus the Seattle Seahawks, our home opener. DK Metcalf now gets to face his former team just after Aaron Rodgers faces his. I think I'm going to start DK in fantasy. Usually, former team, you play really well. So I'll probably start DK. But let's see what Mike Tomlin has to say.
Good afternoon. Man, it's really exciting to kind of get back and be in the grind that is the football season. Yesterday was a really good day. Today is a good day, man. Just feeling the rhythm of the process. Reviewing performance, learning from those reviews, and plotting a course for the next sequence, the planning, the prep, and then ultimately the play. Yesterday we met as a team and we looked at the Jet game. Certainly was a lot to learn from that performance. It's really good to learn while winning, and so I'm thankful that we did enough to win the game, but certainly there were some things that were indicative of week one like football. I thought in some instances we lacked in some fundamentals, some communication, and other things that can cause you to play less than stellar, particularly early in the season. I thought a real positive note is that we weren't highly penalized. I think we had 4 penalties in the game, and we really wanted to respect that component of it. Last week we prepared with an officiating crew at all of our practices. I think we benefited from that. I think we were one of the least penalized groups in the NFL last week, and so there was certainly some week one things. We absorbed some attrition in the midst of play that kind of created more challenges. Deshaun Elliott being central there. Deshaun being an experienced member of our secondary in terms of being experienced in Pittsburgh. We had some big plans in terms of his usage and his role as a communicator. Certainly was not displeased with the efforts of Chuck Clark, but was highly concerned with a number of new Steelers in an in-stadium circumstance on the back end, having to communicate in some of those things. Offensively, I'd like to see us do a better job of protecting Aaron, particularly on play pass. As I mentioned after the game, you absorb certain risk executing play pass in an effort to get yards in chunks, but that risk should manifest itself in the form of multiple sacks like it did when you're prepared and good. And so as a staff and as a collective, we got to be a little bit better in that space. Certainly would like to run the ball more. We had 0 explosion runs of 10 yards or more. Didn't have enough runs in totality. The Jets had a lot to do with that. They possessed the ball. I think we had 25 minutes of time of possession. And so it affected us in those areas. I look forward to getting back to work in that space. On the defensive side of the ball, I didn't think we whipped enough blocks and made enough tackles specifically. And so, those are fundamental things. We certainly will work to continue to get better there. I thought that was just kind of the story of it. We certainly can do some more things schematically to help the guys and will, but that's an easier endeavor once we gain more experience collectively and some continuity in that space. I did like, as I mentioned after the game, the ability to stay the course, man, and have the emotions and the continuity to make the necessary plays down the stretch. The 3 and out prior to the last possession might have been the biggest possession. We went on a 3 and out on offense just prior to that. We had to punt the ball away, and our ability to go 3 and out right there, particularly with a third down design quarterback run, to win that sequence and give our offense the ball back was as big as the final drive. And so, like their ability to stay the course and deliver in the weighty moments. You're not going to have a good team, and you're certainly not going to have a good defense if they can't do so. I thought all 3 phases displayed that over the course of the game in a variety of ways. Our ability to move the ball offensively on the front side at halftime I thought was critical. Certainly our ability to stop them at the end was critical, and certainly we had some timely plays in special teams, first and foremost with Boz doing what it is that he does. And so there's a lot to learn from that. We better learn quickly, as does everyone else, because week 2 is fast upon us, man. Excited about leaning in on prep for Seattle. I'll quickly give you an injury report. Derek Harmon can anticipate it to continue to be out this week with his knee. Deshaun Elliott, the same with his knee. Malik Harrison, the same with his knee. And so those are 3 guys that are potentially scheduled to be out as I sit here today. Joey Porter wasn't able to finish the game with a hamstring. Optimistic about his availability, but I'll let the quality of his work and the amount of his work during the week be our guide there. And really optimistic and hopeful about Nick Herbert being available for us this week. And so, as is always the case in ball, you step into a stadium, you lose some capable men, but we also are going to get some capable men back, and so we'll put together a collective that positions us to be at our best. As I'm sure you guys have mentioned, we have Jabril Peppers in the building. We'll be signing Jabril today and get him up to speed about what it is we'd ask him to do. Highly familiar with him, not only from his time as a Cleveland Brown, but scouted him heavily when he came out of Michigan. He's a football player first, positional player second. He's displayed position flexibility over the course of his career at either safety position, at rundown nickel. He's been a capable guy in the special teams space over the course of his career, covering kicks, returning punts. He's just a good, well-rounded football player. And so glad to add and have him in the fold. We'll see how we divide the labor up as we get into the week. Their ability to communicate and execute obviously will be a major component of how we divide that labor up and go from there. I'll start on Seattle a little bit. Defensively, they're a challenge. They got some talented people on all levels. I'll start first uniquely with their secondary. I think not only is their secondary the strongest position on the unit, but probably their strongest position on the team. They just have a very talented and deep group. I think that was on display last weekend. They play a lot of people. They played as many as 7 defensive backs in the game.
Wow.
There's several that make that a reality. First and foremost is Witherspoon. He plays outside at a high level. He plays nickel at a high level. You can say the same thing about Love at safety. He'll play on the back end at a high level. He's got really good instincts and ball skills. You'll see him down in and around the line of scrimmage. He had a sack this past weekend, particularly in some of their sub work when they get in dime. He's very capable around the line of scrimmage. Kobe Bryant is his safety partner back there. He was a Thorpe Award winner as a corner at the University of Cincinnati. Has made a nice transition to safety, and they form a really rock-solid tandem. Willem at the other corner opposite of Witherspoon is a height, weight, speed guy with some excellent ball skills. He played wide receiver for a couple of years at UTSA prior to coming into the league, and I think his interception production and ball skills really kind of give you an illustration of that history. At the linebacker level, 1-3, Jones, man, is their defensive play caller. Been really solid for them. They acquired him, I think, at the deadline last year from Tennessee. Got really good C to do and instincts. Gets from A to B, man. Had an awesome interception in that game last week. Is a really good blitzer. Has a real good, well-rounded game, and is a nice hub of communication in terms of tying all of those things together. Up front, man, they got a really talented group. Byron Murphy is a high-round draft pick out of Texas that's in his second year, man. Scouted him a lot. He's really talented. The acquisition of Leonard Williams maybe a year and a half ago at the trade deadline, I think, was a significant acquisition for them. Man, he's super talented. He's good versus the run. He's good versus the pass. They move him around. He'll rush centers, guards, and tackles. They play him on the edge at times even in one-dimensional passing moments. Lawrence is a big-time acquisition in free agency for them, who'll also play on the edge and has a very, very formidable resume in that space. And so, man, they got a good defense. Coach McDonald has been around, former Baltimore Raven, man. He's familiar with us. We're somewhat familiar with him. I see some of the parallels when I watch them play. When I watch Witherspoon play inside and out, it reminds me a lot of Marlon in Baltimore, for example. And so there's a lot of those parallels that you can make schematically as you lean in on this preparation, and we certainly do. But I also see contributions from others, man. Leslie Frazier is a savvy veteran coach in this game on the defensive side, and he's been out there with Coach McDonald as well. And you see some of Leslie's background from a schematic standpoint on their video as well. And so, you know, they got a well-rounded group. They got some really capable coaches. They're doing a nice job of mixing and expanding some schematics to create issues. And certainly at this early stage of the season, this is a concern from a strategy perspective on the other side, because there's always the element of the unknown. And we'll be in that mindset for a few more weeks, as will everyone else, until there's enough video evidence out there for people's comfort. That's just a component of September ball in this league. And so I'll slide to the offensive side of the ball. They got a group, man, that's really committed to running the ball. Coach Kubiak is their coordinator. Dennison is their line coach and kind of run game coordinator. They certainly have a history together. Although they're new to Seattle, they've been together. They were together in New Orleans last year. I think they were together in Minnesota in 2021. But Dennison certainly has a mode of operation. He and Kubiak work well together. There's a commitment to running the ball. They got two really good, capable runners. I think that was on display a week ago, but you know, there's more evidence of that. Can't say enough about Walker and his pad level, his ability to finish. He's got a real good run posture and run demeanor. As I mentioned earlier, they certainly have a mode of operation. They're very good zone scheme blockers. They have guys up front that are really capable of moving well laterally, individually and collectively. They can capture gaps. They can cut off backside defenders. Their tackle tandem in particular is very talented. Their right tackle, they just redid on the extension. Their left tackle was a first rounder a couple years ago from Mississippi State. Zabel is a highly regarded rookie guard, probably the best guard in the draft. He's a plug and play type. And so they got a real good group up front. They got a mode of operation. They got two really good, capable runners. We certainly have some video on tape from last week that should excite them and create urgency in us as we prepare. In the passing game, obviously they acquired Sam Darnold, man, and this guy's just battle-tested, man. He's been in a lot of systems. In the midst of it all, moving around, he's continually improved over the course of his career. He makes quick and fluid decisions. He's good with the ball. He takes care of the ball. He moves his unit, and that's why they had the type of success that they had with him in Minnesota a year ago, and why they won as a football team. And so he certainly has our attention. His eligibles, Smith-Njigba, was targeted quite a bit last week. Not surprised. He's been developing and emerging since he's been in the league, and it's time for him to be that. And certainly the acquisition of Cooper Kupp helps. You talk about a savvy route runner, a guy that's really experienced and savvy at finding spaces versus zone and showing patience and losing people at the top of the route and winning versus leveraging man. He's made a career of that. And so there's a lot of things that have our attention, but more importantly than anything else, man, it's week 2, and it's our first time at that 7-day cycle, and I'm excited about doing it at home in Acrisure in front of Steeler Nation. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
All right, did you go into the Jets game with an aggressive game plan, wanting to use your new toys, or did the flow of the game kind of dictate?
A little bit of both. Certainly, when you acquire talent, it's our job to utilize that talent, and particularly utilize that talent in spaces where it's in their wheelhouse. And certainly that was a goal last week, and that's a goal every week, to be quite honest with you. And then secondarily, we've always got to be willing to adapt and adjust based on how games are unfolding and how matchups may dictate that. Sometimes you might have a mindset about approaching the game a certain way, and a counter strategy might alter that. We weren't certain whether or not Sauce Gardner was going to travel with DK, for example, where it didn't take long to realize that he did. And so you make plans, whether he does or he doesn't. You see what's going to happen, and then you go down the line accordingly.
You adapt.
Specifically about DK, you guys got a couple run after catch explosions from him throughout the course of the day. Was that by design thinking going in, or is that just kind of the nature of how those plays manifested?
Both again. DK is big and fast. You certainly want to get the ball in his hands. He's certainly capable of being a tough tackle in the secondary once he does. And so it's our job to get him the ball in spaces where those talents show. And sometimes it's quick hitting passes, particularly early in the game. I think it was the first third down of the season. They pressured us. We were able to distribute the ball to him quickly. He was able to make a would-be tackler miss and go down the sideline for roughly 25 yards. I think those are indications of why we acquired him.
Just sticking with DK for a second, everyone knows he's big, physical, and fast. But what have you learned, or what's impressed you about his practice habits and the way that he works during the week?
Man, he is a professional. But I can't say that I was surprised by it. You do your research. You know, this is a small league in the big scheme of things, and certainly you know about the significant players, not only their talents, but their relationship with their game, their lifestyle, if you will, and all of those things were really positive components of his profile, and one of the reasons why we were really excited about acquiring him.
Mike, how would you evaluate Broderick's performance?
You know, certainly it could be better, but certainly all of our performances could be better. As I mentioned, our quarterback got hit too much, and he was a component of that.
Do you worry about confidence with him at all?
I don't.
Why not?
Because it's football, you know. You don't get to the National Football League by being fragile emotionally. You know, there's a lot of confident guys that I work with. You win some battles, you lose some battles, you come back fighting. That's just the nature of the men that play this game at this level.
On the other side, how do you evaluate Troy Fautanu's first game action?
Just like Broderick, I thought he had some good moments. I thought he certainly could be better. As I mentioned, as a collective, we got a quarterback hit too often for my liking. And so we're back to the lab.
To Cole Holcomb not getting any snaps on defense?
You know, we're just playing to win the game. Certainly, if opportunity presents itself from a matchup standpoint, we're open to it, but we don't feel obligated for participation. This is not Little League football. We're going to simulate a group that we think is capable of winning certain matchups in certain moments, and certainly Cole has had a good process. We're happy to have him back from injury, and I'm sure he'll get an opportunity in the not-too-distant future.
What does Keanu have to do to do better at the nose tackle position? And is there any consideration of shifting around roles as far as who lines up over B gap versus A gap?
No, there's no real strong consideration of moving people around at this juncture. And, you know, Keanu is expected to get better from game 1 to game 2 like everyone else. I think it's a reasonable expectation. At least it is for me. You know, I think once you've been in the stadium and you've played 60 minutes of football, you know something about yourselves that you didn't prior to going into it. And I think that knowledge, that experience individually and collectively is a catalyst for improvement between game 1 and game 2.
Like, first time seeing Aaron play for this team in the game, just how do you assess how he did?
Man, I thought he was really good, man. I thought he was what we needed to be. But again, as I mentioned, I'm not surprised by that.
Whoa, audio,
my
no.
levels of confidence, if you will, leading into the game based on what I saw from him in preparation.
Or Elliott candidates for injured reserve?
You know, I haven't even begun to think about that. They're in the building right now getting treatment. We'll make some of those type of decisions later in today or tomorrow, if you will. It's just normal business procedure at the top of the week.
Jabril Peppers signing a byproduct of Deshaun's injury? Or does
Yes.
it add?
Like you talk about wanting to run the ball better. Do you feel like it was problems with blocking schematically, or your running backs? Where do you feel like is the biggest area of opportunity there?
You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't compliment the Jets, you know, and their players.
It was a good
their
defense.
Schematics had a lot to do with it. And again, as I mentioned, sometimes it's none of the above. Sometimes it's just lack of opportunity on how a game unfolds. We didn't possess the ball enough. I think we had 25 minutes of time of possession, and some of that time was done in a catch-up-like capacity, which changes your run-pass ratio, if you will.
You talked
Jabril
about
Peppers has made a lot of plays against you guys over the years. Which one stands out to you?
Man, you know, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I did so much work on him in the draft. I think maybe his Michigan plays probably stand out more than his professional plays. He was just used in a real unique way in Michigan that really highlighted.
I remember him
his
at the
talent.
combine. He
was
did
even
like a backflip
two-way
or
player at
something.
one point. He played linebacker-like in some of their bare structured fronts. He returned kicks. He was just a well-rounded football player in all areas of the game.
You talked about protecting Aaron Rodgers. How is Seattle a different challenge with some of their simulated pressures versus a team like the Jets that's more just blitz-centric?
You know, I don't know that they are. I think everyone is still kind of defining who they are at this juncture. You know, the game unfolded uniquely last week in terms of Seattle and San Fran. It became rock'em sock'em robots, heavy run game, and things of that nature. And so I'm sure they had some things from a blitz perspective that they didn't have an opportunity to get off. And so I'll reserve judgment on some of that.
What specifically are you looking for from your run defense coming in?
I want us to be stouter.
Some of the physical elements of that in your open, trying to get off blocks better, make tackles better. Are there some pre-snap schematic assignment duties that need to be sharpened up as well? Like, for instance, I don't know, the fields run in the goal line situation.
Yeah, I don't know if it's schematic duties per se as it has to do with recognition or anticipation. I just think there's an element of the unknown early in the season that slows you down from a collective play speed perspective, from a communication perspective, and I think it's reasonable to expect all those things to improve.
Talked a lot about whipping blocks, the importance of that, but as far as sometimes absorbing block, when it's like a double team, it's keeping other guys clean. What do you guys have to do better at that to help?
It's all wrapped up in the same discussion.
Did you draft Peppers?
I don't want to take picks that high. That requires you to lose a lot of games.
Said the same thing to Chase Young.
Oh, I don't know. I just assumed it was earlier than that. Okay.
What did he say?
It was earlier games.
I think he was picked 25th, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I just assumed it was earlier than that. Okay.
Mike, Roman had a big preseason.
I feel like it was a
snap
late
on
first.
Sunday. Was that more of just a byproduct of where you guys were just,
And lack of possession of the football and, agenda relative to that day. As I mentioned after the game, I got no intentions of explaining the minutia of rep distribution week in and week out. We got a really good collective, in some instances highly specialized skill sets, and so in some weeks those skill sets are going to be highlighted and utilized. Some weeks they're going to be minimized. It's just a component of winning football games in today's NFL and really don't require a whole lot of explanation.
Carl Dunbar talked about this on draft night. He really thought YA could do well over guards and tackles as opposed to nose. What is it about his game that, why is it that way, and can you envision him someday taking on snaps at nose?
Certainly. He could play snaps at nose because he's a big man. He's able to absorb double teams and not be moved. He's capable of playing at further distances, greater distances from the ball because of his length and his ability to cover spaces with that length and keep people off of his body and play the backside of runs and things of that nature. And so that's what Dunbar was talking about when he highlighted his levels of excitement.
Do you have a sense that this game has any extra significance for DK going against his former team?
I haven't talked to him about it whatsoever. I don't know that I've seen him since we got off the airplane and got back here in a one-on-one like capacity. But common sense would tell you that it certainly does. They drafted him. He played there a number of years. Whether or not he will acknowledge it is up to him.
The season opener is one thing. The home opener is a different. What are your thoughts on Steeler Nation being able to first see, this offense for the first time in this season?
I'm always excited to play within the comforts of Acrisure in front of our fans. They're a source of inspiration for us. They're certainly a source of challenges for those that we compete against, but we also respect the challenge that it creates for us. From a defensive perspective, we have to work with crowd noise this week to make sure that our communication and so forth is on point as they create a hostile environment for our opposing offense.
You talked about the length of Wyatt Black, but what can Broderick Jones do to better use his length? He's one of the longer-armed, bigger body guys in your offensive line, especially when it comes to pass protection.
I don't think that length is an issue in terms of his game, in terms of the areas of get better. It is an asset.
I don't think that's the question.
Clarification, better understanding of that rule that Ramsey got flagged for. In theory, is a player in open space like that supposed to be able to go through a blocker to get to a ball carrier? Is he allowed to do that, or is it incumbent on him to avoid?
If we're talking about the rule is obviously you can't cut in open grass. In regards specifically to the play, I've had zero communication with the NFL office in terms of their interpretation of the rule. I understand the rule, I just simply didn't think it applied to him in that circumstance. I thought he stepped around it, that would-be blocker, and skinned himself and went in for a low tackle. And so that's why I disagree with the call. But I've had zero conversations with the league office regarding their interpretations of the play.
With so many first-year acquisitions making a huge impact in the game against the Jets, what were your conversations like with Omar after the game, and was there a little bit of extra chest bump because of these new guys playing such a...
I'll keep communication between Omar and myself, between us. I don't know that it helps us to be transparent in that way. But our communication was normal. Assessing what transpired in the game, particularly from an injury and player availability standpoint, and making some initial decisions about how to move forward for this week's challenge.
Calvin also had a touchdown, also a combat catch. Obviously dealt with injury for some of the preseason. Where have you seen him grow into where he is now? He's
grown in all areas, to be quite honest with you. He's a guy that was really limited in his rookie year due to injury. And in spite of that, saw dramatic improvement between year one and year two. And he's such a good professional and has such a good relationship with the game. It's reasonable to expect that to continue. DK gets a lot of attention, schematic attention, personnel attention, and so it created some real opportunities for Calvin, and I know he's gained
and
credit
others.
for that.
What was the thought process behind the competition committee allowing the kickers to process or manipulate the kicking ball beforehand, and do you think that will help or has helped the Boss?
I have zero idea, to be quite honest with you. I'm certainly not a kicking specialist. I'm certainly not a ball treatment specialist. I leave that between Boz and our equipment personnel. I'm aware of the rule that you mentioned, but I've been in this league long enough that I've seen it evolve and come back. When I first got into the league, the guys used to handle and treat the balls and so forth, and then we kind of moved away from it, and now we've kind of moved back to it. And I think that's with a lot of discussions in the National Football League, having been in the league a long time. Things happen in cycles, schematic concepts, get really trendy and then they go away and then they come back. And same thing with the points of emphasis and rules at times. And that's just the lens through which I see it, because I've been on the committee a long time and certainly have been in the league a long time.
Kenneth Gainwell, did you envision him being as kind of a bigger part of your offense, and why is he such a good fit for what you did?
We did, and we did because we had real evidence. We've played against him, and he's made some plays against us. We played him in Philly a year ago, man. Those third down conversions that he made were a significant component of the game. They were. They threw the ball to him on swings with very little risk. He won some one-on-one circumstances and converted, allowed drives to stay alive, put points on the board. He was also a very viable special teams player for them. A year ago, I think he had 6 or so tackles on their kickoff unit, and so I wasn't surprised by that playmaking component of his game. Maybe his talents were minimized because of the talents of those around him. I mean, he did play with Saquon. And so, those are some of the things that went into the excitement around his acquisition.
Mike, when it comes to you guys' run game, you didn't get to test it out too much with the full first team in the preseason, and then, as you said, circumstances kind of limited what you guys could do in week one. How do you chart as a coach the path forward for this group to find its footing in the run game?
It's business as usual. It is. We look at the teams that we play against. We see what they do well individually, what they do well schematically. We formulate a base plan and we build from there. Nothing changes. Certainly in week 2, there's less speculation in some of that. But we have a process, but everybody has a process that leads from preparation, planning to preparation to play.
Anyone else?
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. So, got a few notes here. So we weren't penalized a ton, which is actually really, really good. You know, sometimes it's week 1, you're sloppy, and, you know, whether it's pre-snap or it's during the play, you know, if you're grabbing or if you're a little late on a hit or you're a little early to the receiver, you know, stuff like that. So to actually only have 4, I think he said, was really good. He said that we were one of like the lowest penalized teams this week. I think it was it Friday's game, the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil. I was watching Tom Grossi, and the game was on YouTube, and YouTube actually allowed a few content creators to stream the game on their channels. Like, they were actually allowed to show from start to finish the game. And Tom happened to be one of those people. So he counts the flags that are thrown and accepted. It is accepted penalties. So he talked about it. I think he said it at 11, I think, accepted penalties, and it was literally about that in the first half. So, and that's the Chiefs and the Chargers, like, you know, 2 respected teams. And I'll get into one of those penalties later that the Steelers had. So if you don't call that, like, because of what Tomlin said, like, did it, like, yes, probably letter of the law, it's a penalty, but you gotta look at player intent as well. So I'll get into that, but if you don't get flagged for that, it's only 3 flags the entire game. That's pretty good. We had good moments, but we need more of them, and we need to be better. As far as injuries, Harmon is out with his knee injury. Harrison is going to be out with his injury. Elliott's out with his injury. So I know Elliott, from what I saw, Tomlin didn't say it, but from what I've seen online, he has an MCL sprain, and he's going to miss a couple of weeks. I guess the target is the Steelers' Week 4 game against the Vikings in Ireland. If he's able to come back for that, great. If not, then we'll see him 2 weeks after that, because the Steelers come back and have their bye. So, Porter, as of today, is a maybe. Though I think he said he was optimistic. And Herbig, I wrote as a probably. He said he was very optimistic. He said he was hopeful. So it sounds like Herbig is in a better spot than Porter to play. But it is possible we see both of them. I mean, if Porter has to sit 1 game in order to ensure his hamstring is good to go, then okay. We rock with what we can, and we'll go from there. But hopefully Joey's good to go. he did bring up Jabril Peppers has been signed. Though as far as I can find, I can't tell if he's been signed to the practice squad or to the 53-man roster. You know, and for him to be signed, excuse me, for him to be signed, what's the corresponding move? You know, if he was signed to the practice squad, who was cut? If he was signed to the 53 roster, who was cut or who was put on IR? You know, Seahawks are a good team. They have a talented defense. Their secondary is really, really good. They kind of have guys at essentially all 5 positions in the secondary. The 2 safety, the 2 outside, and the slot. What's his name? Ernest Jones. He is the linebacker in the middle. He was with the Rams. Then I think traded to the Titans and then traded to the Seahawks. Either signed to the Titans or traded. It was one of the two. But then they traded him to the Seahawks. And then their D-line, they've got guys all over there too. He brought up Murphy from the second-year man from Texas. DeMarcus Lawrence from Dallas, Williams, who he said they traded for last year. They got guys all over. And then on the offense, they brought in Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold this year. JSN is the new, or he's supposed to be the new wide receiver 1 in Seattle after they traded away DK and cut Tyler Lockett. And then you still have like running back Charbonnet. You have Kenneth Walker. And then the run defense was brought up, and he mentioned how you got to be better there. And I already said, you just got to be better. You need more good plays, more good moments, not just on the run D, but all around. Even on offense. Like, we can be better on offense. Here we go. So Ramsey's penalty not rightly called. So when he said he understands the rule, right? To the letter of the law, Jalen technically cut the guy in the open field, right? He hit him in the knee or made contact with his knee, I'll say. Because by the time he really hit the guy in the knee, I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't know if his legs hit the guy or if he grazed the guy. I'm trying to remember exactly. But like, he clearly wasn't trying to take out the blocker. Oh, who's the blocker? Was it Braylon Allen or maybe Breece Hall? It is somebody. But I think it was Braylon Allen. He was not trying to take him out so then someone could easily come up and make the tackle on Fields. He was trying to get around him to get to Fields. And he happened to make contact with Braylon. So, by letter of the law, penalty. If you look at player intent, that's where is it really a penalty? Because he wasn't trying to cut him down. Like, he just wanted to make a play on Justin. And then I wrote this down, the league rubber bands. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, I'll explain. So, say 20, 25 years ago, the league was like heavy run. So you had heavy defenders, even heavy middle linebackers, that could help stop the run. Well, those heavy linebackers weren't able to run as fast. So what do? You get fast guys on offense. You draft wide receivers, tight ends that can catch. and now it becomes more of a passing league. So the defense now has to respond. Okay, guys who are great run stuffers, but you can't cover, we're going to not value you as much, and we're going to value these other guys who can run better and can cover better. And the defense adapted slowly over time. Well, now the offense sees that. We're going to run the ball. And now what are you running against? Lighter defenders. So the league just rubber bands back and forth. It does. Tomlin, I can't remember his exact words. He did not say rubber bands. Whether he says it changes or it evolves. I'm really trying to not yawn. But it changes, it evolves, whatever. So, but I like to say it rubber bands. Like, yes, it changes and whatnot. But, and then defenders might get a little heavier again. And that's when they'll start passing again. So the offense will typically dictate to the defense who they should value, how they should draft, to adapt to what offenses do. And that's where you try to value a guy where, hey, you're a big guy that can stop the run, and you're fast and you can cover. You can do both. So that is Mike Tomlin's press conference leading up to week 2 versus the Seattle Seahawks at home. Our home opener. I'm sure this is going to be just a great crowd for the game. To get all these new guys that can come out of the tunnel for the first time at Acrisure and have it actually mean something, you know? So if you guys did enjoy this, please do leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.